it is my sort of absolute pleasure and privilege and delight to tell you that RTJ4 has been voted by a landslide NME's Album of the Year 2020.
Get the fuck out of here. that is amazing. Thank you, man. That
Suck
is
our
amazing.
fucking
Thank you.
dicks, Grammys.
You're watching NME. I'm commissioning editor Jordan Bassett, and I'm very, very lucky to be joined today by LP and Killer Mike of the magnificent Run the Jewels. The first thing really is, you strike me as being pretty kind of optimistic, upbeat guys. How are you feeling as we put 2020 to bed?
Oh, I feel great. I'm about to smoke a joint. My wife and I were talking, yesterday just about how much, with all the peril in the world, and we've tried to help a lot of people. We've given away food. We've cut rent. We've not charged barbers to, our people who work for us. Our thing is that we've probably got to spend more time together with the children and older loved ones in our family, more than the last 8 years of touring and stuff. So, as much as peril is around us, we've tried to help as much as we can. But I really have enjoyed, getting the chance to be here for my kids every day.
And LP, how about you?
Oh, I've hated it. I've hated being around my wife and my dog. It's just fucking driving me crazy. No, I mean, I can't really complain about that. Me and Mike are in a position where we're lucky enough to be financially stable. Our lives weren't wiped out when we were unable to go on tour. We're lucky. We're in a percentage of people who didn't have to feel those devastating effects financially in the same way, and I know a lot of people who did. I will say that I'm healthy, and my loved ones are healthy, and I'm really psyched about that. And if there was one regret that I had, it's that we haven't gotten a chance to go out and perform any songs in front of people yet.
Well, yeah. So this brings us to the point, actually. RTJ4, your extraordinary album that came out this year.
Thank you.
I actually have some good news to share with you.
Really?
You don't know this yet, but the reason for this call actually is that it is my sort of absolute pleasure and privilege and delight to tell you that RTJ4 has been voted by a landslide NME's Album of the Year 2020.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Oh man, guys, I'm talking about for real. That is amazing. Thank you, man. That
Suck
is
our
amazing.
fucking dicks, Grammys.
Yeah, shout out to everyone at NME. I don't even know who the fuck had the good sense to do it, but thank God, because the Grammy sure got it wrong.
Loads of people.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
So let me ask this about RTJ4. When you're making or have just finished making an album like RTJ4, which is, for my money, not just an instant classic rap record, but just an instant classic record, full stop. At that point, do you know what you've got on your hands, or is it when it goes out and it gets the reception that you go, oh right, okay, this is a big one?
I think we knew with this one. I think we felt it. I speak for myself. I mean, because I'm not usually the dude who does know. I've known on a few records. I knew when we did rap music. You know what I mean? I was like, yo, this is a classic. I remember when we did the first Run the Jewels shit, I looked at Mike and I was hesitant to say it. And I was like, yo, I kind of feel like we might have a classic on our hands. And Mike was like, I definitely feel that way. I've always been careful to, in my mind about that. I mean, case in point, Run the Jewels 2, I legitimately didn't know how people were going to respond to Run the Jewels 2.
Right.
When we dropped that shit, I was like, it could go either way. I don't know if this is I think it's dope, but I don't know. And so I don't trust my own opinion, but I think that with this one, I think that we did feel, I think everyone working on it did feel like at the very least, there was something special going on with the record. You know, I think that we felt the vibe with it, and we just sort of hoped that what we, you know, the way that we felt about it translated. You know, like, you know, I think the thing about it is that like pretty much all the time, everybody who releases a record pretty much thinks it's the best thing they've ever done, and they hope that it's the best.
Well, you've got to.
You do, and you're so close to it. You know, you're so close to it. So, you know, having people validate you isn't the most important part of creating the music, but it is obviously a big deal to us and an honor to us when, you know, magazines like yourself say it was record of the year. It's no joke. So thank you for that.
Well, I think, you know, a big part of it is that, like, you know, this is a year that's been defined not just by the coronavirus pandemic, but by activism and, you know, a sense of change and revolution and civil rights, human rights. All of this stuff is in RTJ4. So, like, but weirdly, you actually recorded most of it. Is that right? Towards the end of 2019?
All of it.
All of it. So, you know, what happened here? Is it one of these things where, because you're musicians and you're very kind of intuitive and emotionally intelligent, you kind of, you know, see what comes down through the wires? Because, you know, that happens a lot with creative people. Or is it just, you know, the world caught up with Run the Jewels?
I mean, in my opinion, it's both. As musicians and artists, you're sensitive to whatever vibrations are happening, even if people are watching it. Oftentimes, it's unacknowledged. You know what I mean? But you see it, you feel it, and a lot of times as musicians, you kind of, or artists, period, you kind of know, you instinctively feel one thing will trigger the other. You know what I'm saying? You know where, like, human beings can build houses and we can create waterways and things of that nature. So we tend to think of ourselves as something outside of nature, but you're no different than a deer in the forest that hears a hunter. You know what I mean? You don't know exactly what you heard, but you peek up and you're looking because you're like, something strange. The forest doesn't usually make that fucking noise.
Right.
And, you know, so I think as artists, you have that instinct and your intuition works like that. And I think that it always abounds, and the world finally catch up in that everyone paid attention at the same time because we didn't have a choice. You know, we were all sitting in our houses watching a black man be murdered 3 times. You know what I mean? Like a cop on his neck, 2 white men hunt another black man down, another black man running from police. You got to see or hear of no-knock warrants, you know, murdering Breonna Taylor. So there was no turn away. You know, if you look at the 60s and what television did for the civil and human rights movement overall, is those people, Martin Luther King had been doing civil rights since the 50s. But the 60s and television and everyone being able to watch on the news, local municipalities beat the shit out of college kids, changed America in a very distinct way. And I think that this moment, I think that we have been rapping about the potential of this moment happening, of the proletariat pushing back against the state. You know, it's one thing to burn Targets or to burn Walmarts and shit, but in Minneapolis, they burned 3 police stations. And that's not something to be looking at lightly or ignored, because that is the proletariat saying directly to the state, we will not stand for this anymore. So it was a radically refreshing moment for me to see people united beyond race, ethnicity, sexual orientation in the streets together, mashing on the behalf of the people, pushing against the state. For me, what gives me solace a lot of times is being able to express that over a beat, because it's a very, very hard existence to be a black person in America. It is terribly burdensome when you don't deserve it. You know, it is work to be happy some days when essentially you are constantly seeing yourself be lynched. Different form of lynching, but lynching nonetheless.
And putting it into the music is a kind of relief.
It is a therapeutic way of acknowledging the pain and acknowledging the potential for change, but you can't do that without acknowledging the pain, you know. So I am, and I'm hope, you know, Run the Jewels music leaves me hopeful, much in the way that BDP did for me, much in the way that Ice Cube did for me, much in the way that Public Enemy, of course, like these they left me with hope. They acknowledged a wrong, they acknowledged society, and I always left feeling more empowered. And that's what I try to do in my music. I don't want you to hear Walking in the Snow If you're sad, I want you to hear it and be empowered and invigorated to keep pushing in the streets.
But that, I mean, that's part of what makes the record so great and what makes Run the Jewels so great, that you are talking about this very important, serious stuff. But there is the other side of it as well, which is fun and silly, and it's full of punchlines, and it's kind of like superhero type music in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And I think all of that combined is what because you sort of bring people along for the ride.
Yeah, you're in it with us. We're the anti-heroes, but we're not, I think that we make sure that we stay firmly planted in allowing ourselves to be ridiculous when we want to be, and that's a big part of who we are in terms of when we're together as Run the Jewels, like our mythology with each other and our sense of humor that comes out with each other when we do what we do is just as important to all the stuff. And I think that it lends gravity to when we do speak,
right.
I mean, I think that if you're used to somebody who's just every time they open their mouth, they're sort of talking about something really heavy, it's a natural reaction to just be like, okay, I know what this, you almost can dismiss it. I think that it's the same adage as like, don't curse too much because, then when you really mean that shit, it doesn't happen.
Yeah. And you touched on this earlier, but, when you have a record that's kind of tapped into the moment in the way that RTJ4 did, you must obviously want to share that moment with people, and what a cruel irony that you are unable to do that right now. So how has that been?
With no performing, I mean, I couldn't buy a fucking Ferrari. I couldn't fit in one either yet, but it would have been nice to have had the option. But nah, I miss, you miss people. I love singing and dancing for people. With that said, the antidote, the one show we did this year, Holy Calamavote, in partnership with Ben and Jerry's and Adult Swim, was an amazing elixir for that discomfort. Getting a chance to do one incredibly dope. People haven't seen it, go check it out on YouTube.
Right.
Getting a chance to do that incredibly dope run with Elle, getting a chance to rehearse, to fall in, getting a chance to see the members of our production team. Christian Coffey, who's an amazing tour manager, who got me on board with getting federal government to support, the workers, the production workers that deserved to have, some float income too. Like that type of stuff has meant a lot to me. As selfishly as I do miss just being on stage with my partner and track star DJ and just ripping it, I've had a chance to really acknowledge the humanity that helps us be that on stage. And that one special, the Holy Calamavote, that I must credit, man, Will from our management circle with pushing the line. He's the size of an elf and looks like Brad Pitt. And he pushed a vicious line to just make sure that we did something to give to the fans. It was free. You checked it out. It helped push people to the polls, which it looks like obviously worked. But it is one of the most stellar performances I've had. And I'm talking about even my Easter speech performances in church as a kid. Like I showed out, Elle showed out. We had moments in there that I will remember fondly when I'm in a retirement community in Miami when I'm 80. So, I in lieu of having to swap out, not having to do live shows, that was a moment for me. And I happened to have jumped on stage one time with Big Boy this year. And I can tell you I'm missing it. We're going to come back next year and beat the world up.
Because you were going to be on tour with Rage this year.
Yeah, we're going to be burning down fucking stages with Rage Against the Machine.
That's for next year. On the production side of this record, it feels like you've sort of been even more playful and kind of pushing the boundaries even more. Does that resonate? Does that feel true to you?
I had a feeling that I wanted from this record for the production. I wanted it to be unpredictable, and I wanted it to be funky and nasty and hard, and I wanted to root it in a lot of the spirit of the stuff that me and Mike grew up on, the stuff that we were inspired by, but not in the sense that I wanted that sound, but in the sense that I wanted to honor you know, our influences. And I think that was something that, and even some of my sort of history and the way that I dipped into some of the ways that I used to make beats, you know what I mean, in the beginning of my career a little bit, sort of, because as you know, as you sort of are always looking for like, all right, what's my next perspective, you know, what's my next sort of direction? Because for me, it's very important. I always really need an ideal, a vision to chase down for a sound, for a record when I'm producing it. And I think that we, you know, once I started to sort of, I kind of dig out the sampler again and start looping up some you know, breaks and start fucking around, and that felt like, after years and years of kind of sort of taking different approaches, that felt like a really cool and refreshing way to do this, and it felt like, oh, I knew Mike would like it, you know, and me and Mike come from the same era, so it's like, but I'm glad it came across that way. Totally. We were hoping for that. Yeah, we were hoping for something that never stopped, never lets you take a breath, and then when it finally did, you know, it was important, and it felt like it was time to do something that was really compact and to the point. We didn't want a wasted second.
Some of the really interesting choices, particularly on the final track, A Few Words for the Firing Squad, where it's kind of got that weird sort of like jazzy, kind of like free jazz breakdown sax thing. And I know your father was a jazz musician, right?
Yeah.
So were you kind of drawing on some of that? Because I know that you produced a jazz record, and particularly Washington was on the last record, but
you know, I think it's a part of me. I think it's in my arsenal. I think it's something that I really appreciate. I know a lot of the better jazz musicians in the scene. That, you know, Kocheme, who played horn on that, is a luminary in the world of you know, he's a very, very highly regarded horn player, and the people that we use for the strings on that are highly regarded in that world. You know, I have a connection to a lot of like really amazing musicians in New York, particularly, and so yeah, I think that's definitely a part of my influence, and it's one of those things that I enjoy dipping into. And I thought, and you know, that piece was something that was interesting because we didn't really know where it was going to go. In my mind, I thought it was I just had that sort of pulsating soundscape thing. And in my mind, it was like, I just couldn't hear the drums yet, but the drums were going to be there. And when me and Mike went back and forth on it, it just seemed so powerful. And we just listened to it so much in that form that it got to the point where I was just like, well, you know, I guess there's no fucking drums in this thing.
Mike, you are on NME's People of the Year list as well.
Oh shit! Okay,
a list of sort of 10 people who helped define the year.
Oh wow! Okay.
Partly down to the amazing speech. I mean, you give so many amazing speeches, but the amazing speech in Atlanta, which went viral, when you said, "Don't burn down your homes." And you were imploring people not to turn to violence in the Black Lives Matter protest, and you told people this is the time to mobilize,
strategize, organize, and mobilize.
Which was a really extraordinary moment. I mean, you must have got a lot of response from that at the time. Are people still reaching out to you about that?
Yeah, I mean, shit, I get, you know, congratulatories that helped grow my perspective. I've gotten some that helped change my perspective. I've gotten a lot of thank you for speaking life into our community. That's from the Black community and the Atlanta community. I also have gotten viscerally hated from both sides, all the way from people in the Black community who says, you know, they felt like the tone of the speech was disagreeable with the movement and the time. And, you know, the nuance of the speech is I was talking to Atlanta, just Atlanta. Yes. I thought that it was brilliant to, Dr. King said, a riot is the language of the unheard. I thought it was brilliant to show solidarity as Atlanta, to show people in Minneapolis, we are fucking with you all the way. I thought it was brilliant that the people in Minneapolis burned down police stations, because it shows the state that we have an issue with you, the state, not stores, not gas, you, the fucking state. Everything else was, you know, unfortunately just, it was collateral damage, but they let the state know. then so I was in agreement with that. But at the time that we got called to do it, and I didn't get called, Tip got called. I was drinking Moët, smoking joints and blunts with Noriega at me and T.I.'s food truck back at Seafood. So this is not how the protest movie starts off. It doesn't start with rappers standing around saying, yo, Super Thug was not better. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't start, but it started like that. And it very much, at the same time, Nori acknowledging that seeing people, Black people and other people of color besides Black, thrive in a city. If we burn and loot the businesses that are here, that are in large part owned by not the super corporate businesses, but the new and medium-sized businesses are in large part owned by Blacks, Black women. There's a business called Big Dave's Cheesesteak. His business was windows were broken, I think some looting. He got money back. He's a young Black man, got money back to repair, used the money to do his repairs, then disperse that money to other people. He and Pinky, a Black woman who owns a Slutty Vegan, then bought, weeks later after another Black man was killed, bought that Black man's family a car. That can't happen if we destroy our own homes. If we destroy our own homes, if this is World War II, and we burn our own villages and sit there and wait on the fucking Germans to come, we have no fortress. We have no way to push back. And all I was saying to Atlanta at that time was, versus being so viscerally angry as you deserve to be, versus burning down our household, I think it is better to plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize in the moment and be a place of refuge and of support. And what we saw have happened after that is Georgia has taken a national stance in terms of directing where American policy is going. Atlanta has went past the burn down and has some amazing programs going on that are helping kids in the street and helping in terms of how police are dealing with people. So I've seen growth. I just didn't want at that moment for us to be so righteously and deservedly so angry. I did not want that anger to so over consume us that we burn everything down. And if we did, I would like for us to be much like the logo of Atlanta. And our logo is a phoenix, because this city's been burned down before. I'm glad that ultimately the speech that wasn't a speech, it was just me testifying what was on my heart at that moment. I was happy L called me in solidarity and told me what it meant to him. And I can take the critique and criticism. I just want Atlantans to know, to all the people that saw the good and right in that speech, if we all plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize, I guarantee you whatever this is in Atlanta we have can grow here, and it can be transplanted to other southern cities.
It's really interesting how, like, that very specific speech, not a speech that you gave, then kind of got bigger and it translated, and people, it really resonated with people. And this is all the same stuff that for the same reasons that the record resonated with people. Because I think people are looking for something to pin their hopes on, and want to come together and kind of make things better. So
it's a testimony, like they say in the old Black church. Yeah, it isn't a speech; it's just a testimony.
Yes.
There would be times I'd be in church. My grandmother would just simply testify her highs, her lows, her worries, and her struggles, and much like Run the Jewels 4 is a testimony. Not everything is dark and grim. Even in the dark and grim times, you are hope filled. There's a old in the Black church. He says you shout out the devil. And there's this moment in Black and Pentecostal churches and the music gets to really revving and people get to jump and have it, and they're shouting out. They're just pushing negative energy away and inviting in positive. And at the end, when you hear "fuck you too" to the firing squad, you gotta smile. You do exactly what you just did.
Of course you do. Yeah.
There's this hope, and so I'm proud to be a part of this group for that.
I think Run the Jewels is we're always trying to have you walk away from these records not feeling defeated. We don't want you to feel depressed. There may be a song where that might invoke that feeling of sadness or something, but as a group, we always like the idea that if we were self-mythologizing, that we were the rascal bandits on the run from and the guys that you're rooting for who are fuck ups that you hope that they get away. And I think that that's a decent metaphor for the way we want people to feel about our world when they listen to these records. And, you know, these characters that we have in these records, Yankee and the Brave, I mean, they're good guys. They're trying to do the right thing, but they're also fucking, you know, rapscallions. They're criminals, you know, they're
lovable rogues.
And, you know,
Exactly.
And I think that it's something that me and Mike grew up on is the anti-heroes, you know, because you can connect with somebody who's who's got the, you know, perhaps not polite and perhaps not correct in the way that they engage with the associated societies and their rules, but who at the end of the day are on the side of heart. We're on the side of love. So I think that there's something that for us means a lot when people come on, you know, say that is the effect it has on us. It makes you stand up a little bit. It makes you smile. A little bit of mischief in the face of impending doom is a healthy thing. You know, if you can crack a smile or make a joke at your executioner, I think that's probably, you know, that's one for the good guys, you know?
Okay. So my last question, and I know that you never claim to have all the answers, but I just wondered what your thoughts are on this. Of 2020 has been a year when everyone's been reflecting and wanting to kind of enact change. How do we take that forward into 2021?
I'll give you some catchphrases, right? So that I said in the process, but that rang true. And I've learned these things from Betty and Willie. Let me credit my grandmother. My grandmother would say, "Be nice." It's a very small statement, but it's a very big act.
Yes.
Be nice. At times you can choose to be evil. You can choose to be wrong. You can choose to be fucked up. You can choose to let your ego lead. Breathe and be nice. She gave that advice often. And the reason it's significant, because she was mean as a fucking rattlesnake by nature. Like, there's stories of how fucking mean she could be as a child. And then after she raised me, and I don't know if I heard the words "I love you" fully until I was 8. She kissed me and hugged me when I was asleep because she was raised a country girl, a tomboy. So be nice. The other thing is that my grandfather would tell me, life ain't fair. Doesn't mean life isn't good. Doesn't mean life ain't happy. Doesn't mean, but it's not fair. So because of that, he was a helper of other people. You know, and this is a man I probably think killed probably 2 people in his life at some point. But he was all about, and my grandmother were about, kind and acts to people directly around you. And for those people that want to stay active, if we all do a little bit, and this is out of my mind, we don't have to do a lot. As a former organizer and current mobilizer, you get overwhelmed because the world has an endless supply of fucked up shit. You know, if you simply just say, this is the part I can do, and these are the people I can collaborate with, and you're open to build individual relationships with people who don't look like you, or not from your background, may not even have same righteous cause, but you guys have a similar cause. It is important that you just do your little and don't try to do so much that you feel like you're failing. And last but not least, for organizers and the people on the ground, whether it is China, whether it is what I've seen in France, whether it is people pushing back in the UK, whether it is people pushing in America, is you must plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize now more than ever. Because I don't care what government you have, a government left unchecked is going to be a tyranny. Any government left unchecked. I don't give a fuck how benevolent the person thinks they are at the top, or the people, or the class of people. It doesn't matter to me if it's communist, if it's a democratic republic, if it's socialist. Doesn't matter if it's a monarchy. All I know is that there are always more of us than them. So I want to encourage people to keep plotting, planning, strategizing, organizing, and mobilizing for whatever the people need and want at the time. And, start with be nice, end with getting with other people and plotting and planning. And I think we'll be okay. I just hope that no one else gets sick. So stay away from each other, wear masks like you did when you were a kid and it was Halloween, throw each other the deuces, and try to do your part.
That's wonderful.
I think everyone should take mushrooms.
I'm with that. I'm absolutely with that.
I think that is the perfect place to leave it. Be nice, take mushrooms.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, man, and thanks
you so much
to the whole crew.